Earlier, we spoke with the top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, Dianne Feinstein. We asked her to give us her thoughts about the president saying his strategy against ISIS was the right one.
A couple of days ago, Secretary of State John Kerry, former colleague of ours, addressed the Senate Intelligence Committee, and virtually every member was there. And what he put forward, I think, was a more comprehensive sense of what the strategy is. For the first time, I really learned the number of nations that have signed on to the Vienna Agreement, the basic principles of the agreement, and involving both Iran and Russia. And I think that's very crucial. The point there is because the central point of all of this is Assad, and Assad has got to go. But the question is how and where and over what period of time, because in the meantime, he's putting out barrel bombs with chemical weapons on his people. He's killed 250,000 people. Russia is his great protector, but Russia now sees the challenge from Daesh or ISIS or ISIL. And so my problem with that is you need a time agreement.
You had been skeptical of the administration approach. Did the briefing from Secretary Kerry make you think that that approach is sufficient to the job at the moment?
I don't think the approach is sufficient to the job. I think there are general principles, and there are general principles in terms of the administration strategy, too. But I'm concerned that we don't have the time, and we don't have years. We need to be aggressive now, because ISIL is a quasi-state. ISIL has 30,000 fighters. It's got a civil infrastructure. It's got funding. It's spreading in other countries. And it's a big, big problem. And now what you see, I think, in other places is a competition developing from other terrorist organizations. But ISIL is something apart. It's enormously strong, and it has to be dealt with in a very strong manner.
You mentioned the time component. Does that suggest the administration has been too cautious or lacks a sense of urgency?
No, what I'm saying is this has gone on too long now, and it has not gotten better. It's gotten worse. There may be some land held by ISIL in Iraq and Syria that's been taken back. But for all of that, there's much more they have gained in other countries. 2 attacks in Tunisia, 4 centers, Libya takeover, the Sinai, and it goes on and on. So I think we need a specific, larger special operations plan. A group of 50 is fine for what they're doing so far, but it's not going to solve the problem. And I think getting at the government in Raqqa in a way that one is not only able to get at the government, but change it, move ISIL out, that's where the head of the snake, so to speak, has to be cut off. That's Raqqa, but it's in many other places too. And we don't have a lot of time. There are needless deaths. We have over 1 million people that are refugees, that are trying to save their families, trying to run from it. And we find it in Paris, and we find it in Belgium, and that's where they're running to. So it makes no sense.
Do you believe that the intelligence community has all the tools it needs to track the kinds of threats that America now faces?
I can say this. Director Comey and I think John Brennan would agree that the Achilles heel in the Internet is encryption, because there are now, it's a black web, and there's no way of piercing it. And this even in commercial products. PlayStation, John, which our kids use, if the 2 ends communicate, that's encrypted. So terrorists could use PlayStation to be able to communicate, and there's nothing that can be done about it.
The tech community says if you tried to do something, develop a backdoor that law enforcement could use, that would open up all kinds of other communication, it would financial transactions, other sensitive information would then be at risk if what you're talking about would be put into place.
No, I don't think so. I think with a court order, with good justification, all of that can be prevented. It can be prevented in Europe because Europe has been a major driver for more encryption, and I think they are now seeing the results. And I think, you know, I have visited with all of the general counsels of the tech companies just to try to ask them to take bomb-building recipes off the internet, recipes that have been tested and we know can explode a plane, directions where to sit on the plane to blow it up. We know there are bombs that can go through magnetometers, and to put that information out on the internet is terrible. And I sort of got, well, pass a law. So we may just have to do that, but I am hopeful that the companies, most of whom are my constituents, not most, but many, will understand what we're facing. And we're not crying wolf. There's good reason for this. And people are dying all over the world. And I think the Sinai Russian airliner is a classic example of a bomb that got on a plane that blew up that plane.
Okay, Senator Feinstein, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, John.